We're sitting in a 2001 F250. The complaint is no cruise control. So we're gonna open up the hood. First, check the simple things like fuses, make sure all the fuses are okay. After that has been checked, we're good to go. We'll go under the hood. The right-hand side will show you where the servo is, and we'll make our checks there. So under the hood, just for reference, you can see we have the filter dryer here for the AC, and then this box right here is the controller, and the motor. This cable, if you follow it, goes right to your throttle body there. So it gets its inputs, and then it actuates a motor here that'll make the throttle open or close. So you always want to make sure that all our wires are doing what they're doing. If everything checks out here, then we can condemn this little module. Or maybe we're missing something. So let's pull up a wiring diagram. I'll show you what we're looking for, and then we'll just run through the test real quick. Before we open up a wiring diagram, first thing we can check, this is very common on these vehicles, is the brake pressure switch. So this is on the end of your master cylinder, and you just want to check for any brake fluid contamination. And you can see, maybe you can, maybe you can't, but there is, it's moist. You can see the moist inside. On the end of this, I'm getting some brake fluid. So that will cause an issue, shorting out these two pins here. So that'll cause an issue. So check that first. If it is leaking like this one, this pressure switch needs to be replaced. Now, is that our only issue? Well, let's check everything else to make sure. It could be just as simple as this switch. So I'm screen recording. This is my first time using this feature, so bear with me. Let's get some colors here. Let's get a red. Let's do our powers first. So up here we have hot at all times right here. So we'll follow that down. Now this brake pedal position switch is normally open, so that's as far as that power goes. So that was kind of a lame there. But then we have this hot and run fuse 28. So let's follow that down to there. So that's going to be pin number 7, light blue and pink. That's our power. Go back up, hot at all times, fuse 13. Follow that down. Now the brake pressure switch looks like it's normally closed, so that power will go through the switch and continue. Continue down to number 9. So that's brake press in, or brake pressure in, should be power according to this. All right, there's our powers. So now let's find our ground. Go ahead and grab a black. We have one ground here. Follow that down. So we can check right away our powers and grounds. So let's go ahead and do that. It's pin 7, pin 9, and pin 10. So light blue and pink, and then it looks like black and yellow, and then just straight black. And they're all right next to each other. So back under the hood at the module, the connector is labeled 1 on the left, 10 on the right. So we want the farthest right is our ground, and then the 2 next to it are our powers. So we want the key in the on position, and then we'll check our powers and grounds. All right, quick power and ground check. We got a light bulb. That'll be plenty of current to check. So I am on the black, and this should be a power all times, and we're getting nothing. So let's swap that over right there. So that's our other power. So we have one power, but we're missing a power. We're missing that power. So let's go find out. That'll be pin number 9. Let's see where that comes from. All right, back to the diagram. So we have this power here, our main power coming off of pin number 7. But our pin number 9, our brake pressure in power, is not there. So we're missing this power right here. And we know we have good ground because we got it to light up with our main power. So we already checked this fuse up here, fuse 13, 20 amp. We're good. So now let's go to the brake pressure switch. Let's unplug it and see if we have power coming down this line here. Back at the brake switch connector, so we pulled it off. One of these should have power. It goes through the switch. When the switch is closed, it just brings the power right back to the other wire. I pulled off the little thing so we can clean it out real good behind here, behind this connector. So let's see if we have power. Let me put it in a good spot. Have power going to it from the fuse. So we have a test light hooked to battery negative. So one of these should be power. Nothing there. And nothing there. And even going behind and getting some good, knowing you have good contact, still not getting any power coming to this connector. So our problem here isn't in the connector or the switch. I mean, the switch does need to be replaced because of the leaking brake fluid, but we have an issue back towards the fuse panel somewhere. So just looking at this situation here a little better. So let me find it, hold on. Oh, right here. So right here is what was plugged in to here. And then right here is plugged into this right here. I believe this was the original connector, but if you look, all of this, that looks aftermarket. So this little harness right here is all aftermarket. So this comes from the fuse box, and I do have power coming to here. Once I plug it in to here, I don't have power coming out on this right here. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, maybe, this is just a theory, that this has already been replaced at one time in this truck's life. And when you replace these, they come with a harness adapter. Now this is kind of a big chunky harness adapter. What I'm guessing inside one of these boxes, maybe there's another box here, is maybe a fuse not allowing the electricity to do its thing. So what I'm going to do is clean this all off really good so there's no short, clean the back of this connector really good, and then open these up and see if there's a replaceable fuse. I'll plug it all back in and see if we get power over there. But we are getting power from the fuse box, at least to this connector. So that's good. That means our issue, at least with this power, is within this tiny little harness adapter. All right, so I pulled our harness off, opened up our little box. This one still looks good. It's a little 2 amp fuse, but the other one is definitely smoked. And it's also a 2 amp fuse. And it looks like they just go to one wire. So interesting little setup here. But this is at least the plan for now. I have a new switch coming. It'll be here tomorrow, and with those new switches comes a new pigtail for plugging into the factory. So what I'm gonna do just to test it, to make sure that it works, is replace a fuse, clean this up really good, clean up the brake switch really good, put it all back together, see if we have power over there, plug the module back in, and go for a test drive. I have the fuses back in the harness. I have it plugged in to the main down there. This is what plugs into the sensor. So let me see, I should have power. I do. So now we're where we should be. So we have power coming from the fuse to here. What that switch does is just connects or bridges this pin with that pin. So it kind of goes through the sensor, and the sensor's closed, so it just routes, does a U-turn. Electricity does a U-turn and then goes towards the little module servo over there. So what I'm gonna do, because I know this is bad, I don't want to keep blowing fuses, I am just going to bridge these two. So I'm just gonna plug in a little jumper from one to the other. Let's make this work. Come on, buddy. Okay, so that's in. So now when we come over here, we're getting it to light up on those pins. So now we have both our powers and our good ground. So I'm going to plug this in. I'm just going to leave that over there for now, go for a quick test drive, and make sure that works. Well, took it on a quick test drive. You have to get the speed up enough for the cruise control to engage, but it did work. One thing we're missing though on the dash is the light does not light up still. So we'll continue to dig into that. Could be a bulb on the instrument cluster, who knows, but the cruise control itself is working. So it does just need that brake pressure switch. Again, we'll get that in tomorrow, put it in, and we'll be good to go. And actually it comes with a different harness connector, so it'll bypass all those crazy fuses and stuff. Not sure why that was put in. It is a Ford part, so maybe that was Ford's solution to an issue back in the day. I'm going to continue this video. What if you have powers and you have grounds? It's not the brake switch. Now what? So I'm going to continue the diagnosis of that little module so you can see every wire and what it does. So back at the wiring diagram, if you look at our little module, the speed control servo, so we have ground, we have brake pressure in, we have power, let's say, but we're still not getting our cruise control to work. Well, if you go up 2 pins, the speed control switch in, pin number 5, light blue and black, goes right to our clock spring. So if we hit on our cruise control switch, this will be 12 volts. If we hit off on our cruise control switch, this becomes 0 volts. And with nothing pressed, I should have said that first, it's 7 volts. So 7 volts with nothing pressed, 12 volts with the on pressed, and 0 volts with the off pressed. So let's go ahead and check those real quick. Okay, so we are back probe pin number 5. 1, there's a missing one. 3, 4, 5 is this one here. Make sure it's got a good connection. So you can see we're 8.24 volts, a little higher than the 7, but I assume that's still good. So I'm going to set you up the best I can. You can see that pretty good. So I'm going to go inside, mash the on button, and then you should see this go to battery voltage. I'm going to mash the off button, and this should go to 0 volts. Let me review this, see what we got. All right, so you saw on the voltmeter it switched from the 8.25 up to battery voltage when we hit the on button, and then back to 0. You saw it go to like 20 something millivolts. That's 0 millivolts. We're not worried about, but under a volt, under half a volt, so that's 0. When we hit the off button, that's what it's supposed to do. If yours is doing something different, let's say it has the 8.25 or the 7 is what the manual says, but let's say it has a middle voltage, but it never goes up to 12, but it does go down to 0, well then I would think that it would be a switch issue, that this switch on the steering wheel is not making contact for it to go to the 12. Or the opposite, let's say it goes up, but it never goes down. That'd be a switch problem. Or it never goes one way or the other. I guess that could still be a switch, just nothing happening. If you don't have the voltage at all, let's say that 8.25 is just not even there, then you could check the wiring from this switch to the servo, because it should be there. But if it's not, then that would be a wiring problem, a break somewhere. Okay, let's move on to the next pin. Okay, so let me erase this, and we'll go to our next one is tan. Oop. So up is the tan and light blue right here, pin 4. This goes up to your brake switch. So normally your brake switch is hot at all times, but it's open. Let me do it. So you see it's open right here. That's with it off. So when the brake pedal is up or released, this ground goes through the circuit. So, and then it switches to the power. So that blue, that tan and blue down here, pin 4, should be a ground with nothing pressed. And then it goes to power when the brake pedal is pressed. So we'll try that real quick. If it is power with the brake pedal not on, then that would prevent the cruise control from working, and it would most likely be this brake pedal switch or a short to power somewhere down the line. So now we're back probe to one pin over. So that's pin number 4, wire number 3, 1, 2, third one in, but pin number 4 because it's missing a wire or an empty slot. Let me set you back up again. Now we're reading 0 volts. That's what we want with the brake pedal in the rest position or up. Once I push it down to apply the brakes, this would jump up the battery voltage. So the last thing to check is this vehicle speed input. Pin number 3 is a gray and black. And that goes to our anti-lock brake system. Really, it goes to the engine computer. The engine computer gets the signal from the anti-lock brake module. So it goes from the anti-lock brake module to the engine computer, then from the engine computer to this gray wire. So if you're not getting a vehicle speed signal going to your input, then it'll never turn on because it doesn't think you're moving. But here's the thing, the only way it would not get a signal is if this wire was broken. The reason is because if this speed signal is not getting to the ECM, your dash would never get a speed signal. So it would never show, 10, 20, 30 miles an hour. You'd never see it because this signal comes from the ABS module. The ABS module sends it to the ECM. The ECM sends it to your dash and other places that need it. So anyway, that's kind of a long explanation, but if you're getting a speed signal and you know how fast you're going, but it's still not getting to your ABS, or not ABS, but your speed control servo, the cruise control module, then there's a break in this wire somewhere and it has to be found, or just run a new wire, but that's up to you. But either way, that's the last thing to check is the vehicle speed input. From this gray black wire, it'll be, the tires have to be rolling, so you have to put it on blocks, have the back tires spinning, and this will be an AC sine wave signal. Let me get a different color. Let me go green. It'll look like this up here on an oscilloscope, and then this is ground. So if this is 0, then it'll fluctuate up and down as an AC signal, but it'll be an AC square wave signal. But you'll need an oscilloscope to test that square wave signal. But that's it. That's your last check. All right, there you go. That is the diagnosis of this 01 F250 cruise control issue. Pretty simple, really. That module's really easy to get to. Just a few wires that you're back probing and checking for signal. And that's really how electrical diagnostic goes. Not too crazy. You have a electrical diagram, a wiring diagram, and you're just going through each wire, making sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And if it's not, figuring out why. So not too complicated. Hopefully this was detailed enough. Hopefully the explanation was helpful. If you have an issue with this, or you're just you love electrical diagnostics, or maybe you hate electrical, but this can be useful in your expanding your knowledge of systems, electrical systems in cars. All right, well, thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. Like, subscribe. See you on the next one.